So in this video, we're going to be looking at how we can integrate Ollama into our Python code using LangChain. And at the end of this video, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can get structured outputs basically in the format that you want to integrate with whatever tool you're building. So if you haven't already installed Ollama, I have a video on doing this, but basically you just click the download button here, install it, and then choose one of the models here, and they'll give you a install script here which you just paste into your terminal, and it should be all set up there. So the model we're going to be using in this video is Gemma 3N, and the specific version is Gemma 3N E2B. Now you can use whatever model you want, it's just that Gemma 3N is lightweight and it will run on most consumer GPUs. So that's why I'm going to be using it in this tutorial, but feel free to use whatever model you want here. Now with that out of the way, let's install LangChain. So this is what's going to manage the conversation for us and send off our inputs to the model that we have in Ollama and get the response back. So to set this up, all we need to do is pip install LangChain, which we can copy this and paste it into the terminal. I've already done this, and then we also want to do pip install LangChain-Ollama. And what this will do is it will install a LangChain package, basically additional tools for LangChain for communicating with Ollama where our model is going to be hosted. So before we start coding this out, we need to make sure that Ollama is running here in our system tray. And if it's not, you just need to open up your start menu and look for Ollama and launch that. So now that we have everything installed, we can create our Python script in VS Code. And there's a few things we need to import here. So I'm going to do from LangChain_Ollama and then .llms. We're going to import Ollama LLM. And this is basically the function for connecting to the LLM that we have installed in Ollama. So before we import anything else, let's first show you how this function works, because we can basically communicate with the LLM just by importing this alone. So we're going to do model is equal to Ollama LLM, and then in here I'm going to say model is equal to, and we need to pass in the name of the model here. So as I said before, I'm using Gemma 3 and E2B. If you're using a different model, just type the name of that in here. And then I'm just going to say response is equal to model.invoke. And here we can just pass in our string like, hi, my name is Theo. And then I'm just going to print response here. So I'm just going to save this and run it. And you can see we get a response here. Now this can take a bit of a while because Ollama needs to load that model up into memory. But if you're sending like 2 or 3 prompts, it just needs to load that into memory once. And then for the second and third prompt, that'll be a lot faster. Also, if I were to rerun this file right now, I won't have to wait that long for the response to come in because the model is still in memory. But yeah, it depends what model you're using, how big the model is, and when was the last time you used the model. Because if you just used it like 1 minute ago, it's still going to be in memory, so it won't take long to respond. But if you leave that running for a long time and then come back and try to send a new message, it's already going to be taken out of memory, so it will take a while to get the response there. Now, for some of you, this may be enough. You can definitely build something by just sending a message to a model and getting back a response and using that to do something. But the one thing we don't have right now is memory. So if I were to ask it, what is my name here, it responds with, I do not know. Even though the last message we sent it basically had our name and stuff in it. So to handle memory here, we need to import a few more things. So I'm going to say from LangChain core.prompts. And here we're going to import a chat prompt template. And then we'll put a comma here, and we're also going to import a message placeholder. And then again, from LangChain_core.messages, we're going to import human message and then also AI message. So, okay, we just imported a bunch of stuff here. Basically, human message and AI message are objects that we're going to put messages inside of when we're storing it in history. And then obviously we're going to separate them into human messages and AI messages so that it's easier to manage and easier for the AI to understand who sent which message. And then we have our chat prompt template here. They give an example here. So this is where we put like our system message and then the human messages and AI messages. And basically this is what we're going to be passing the messages through before it actually gets to the LLM. And then we imported message placeholder here. This is a bit difficult to explain, but it's where we're going to put the history of our conversation. We'll see this when we use it down here. So now at the bottom here, right after we set the model, we want to create our prompt. So I'm just going to say prompt is equal to, and we're going to use chat prompt template, which we imported up here. And this actually takes in a list. So inside of this list, each entry we put here is going to be inside of brackets. So the first thing we're going to pass in is, this is going to be a system message. And the message is just going to say you are an AI chatbot. So this first system message is basically where we give our AI a personality. And I'm going to put a comma here and pass in the next thing. So the next thing we're going to pass in is the message placeholder. So this is where we're injecting our history into. So I'm going to call the function message placeholder here, which we imported up here. And this takes a parameter called variable name. So I'm just going to set that equal to history. And then we're going to pass one more thing in here, which is going to be human. And then here I'm just going to use my curly brackets inside the string here, and I'm going to type prompt. Or actually we can do input here. Okay, so let's go over this a bit. Firstly, we're setting the system message, which is just going to say you are an AI chatbot. Then we're injecting our history in here, which we'll talk about more in a minute when we actually set this up. And then finally, we're passing in the human message. So here where I put our curly brackets and the word input, this just means we're creating a variable. We can name this whatever we want. I'm just calling it input. And okay, after this, we need to create a chain. So right now, if we just do model.invoke, the prompt is not being passed in at all here. So in this chain, we're going to set it equal to prompt, and then we put our pipe symbol, and then we type model. Now again, some people like to name this LLM. You can do whatever you want here. But basically what this line here is saying is we're creating a chain, and whenever that chain is invoked, we're going to take the prompt, fill it in with all the information it needs, and then pass that off to the model. And once we have that chain built, I'm just going to create a new variable here called chat history. And this is just going to be a empty list right now. And okay, this is the basic setup for storing things in memory. So now to actually send messages to our AI, we don't need to use this anymore. What we need to do is, and you can put this inside of a loop so that we can send multiple messages, but we actually want to store the message separately. So here you do messages equal to, and we can take input here, but I'm just going to hard code the message in, and I'm going to say, hi, my name is Theo again. And then we're going to actually pass this off to the model. So we're going to do response is equal to chain.invoke. And here now we need to pass in multiple things. So previously when we did model.invoke, we just passed in a message here. Now we need to pass in a dictionary with all of the variables that we defined here. So we defined history and we defined input here. So inside of our invoke function, we need to create our dictionary with curly brackets. And we're going to do history here. And for that, we're just going to pass in the chat history variable. And we put a comma here. Next, we're going to pass in our input. And again, we're passing in input here because that's what we named the variable up here. If you named it something else, you need to write that here. And for the input, I'm going to pass message here. Okay, so after we do this, we actually need to do one more thing. which is we're going to do chat history, which is the empty list we created up here. And we're going to say dot append, and we're going to append this human message, and the human message is going to be whatever our message was here. So it's going to be the message variable. And then we again need to do chat history dot append, and we're going to do, this one is going to be an AI message, and the message is going to be response. So this message is going to be whatever the model responds back with. And after this, we can just print out the response. And after this, we can send it another message. So I'm going to copy this and paste it down here. And now I'm going to change this to say, what is my name? Okay, so let me just go through this quickly. We have our chain here, which is constructing the prompt that we have up here, and then sending it off to our model. And we also have an empty chat history variable here. We're creating our message variable and storing the message inside of it, which we could have taken as input. And then we're just doing the chain.invoke here and getting a response. Inside of the chain.invoke, we're taking a history variable and an input variable. Remember, these two names here are variable names, and we created it up here. So you could have named these whatever you wanted, and you have to use the same names here. And for history, we're passing in the empty chat history variable, which is just empty for now. And then the input is going to be the message that we stored up here. Next, we're storing our human message and our AI message inside of chat history. The reason why we're doing that is so that the next time we call it, here under history, it's going to pass in that chat history with the previous messages that we stored inside of it. And yeah, you can basically just loop this if you want, but I just hard-coded 2 messages here. And obviously after this message as well, we're going to need to store the responses as well. But since this is just a tutorial and a test, I'm not going to add that code in down here. Just going to run this and see what it does. Okay, so I forgot to add the print response here at the bottom after we sent the second message. So I'm just going to add that in quickly. And we'll rerun this. Okay, so we have our first response here. It's to the message saying, hi, my name is Theo. So it just says, hi, Theo, blah, blah, blah. And then we're giving it our second message, which is, what is my name? And here it says, you've just told me your name, it's Theo. So as we can see, it now has memory and it can remember stuff. So with this, you can build something a bit more advanced where it can store past conversations as well. So a few tips here. If you want your AI to give you structured output, what you need to do is in the system message here, you can describe how the structured output is supposed to be. And then in the chat history here, you can actually pre-populate it by just adding stuff in here. And what you put in here is fake messages where the fake responses are going to be in the format that you want, so that when it gets its message here, in the chat history, it has some examples of exactly how you want that response to be. But yeah, there's no perfect way of getting structured outputs and stuff like that. You can experiment and find the best way to integrate the model into whatever tool you're building. But yeah, this is how you would use an Ollama model with LangChain in Python. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.